time to kick off December with a must-know recipe if you are hosting any sort of party or company for the holidays. We are here in the Price Chopper kitchen with the owner of Julep Cocktail Club, Beau Williams. And Beau, today you are showing us how to make two drinks, starting with hot buttered rum.
Yeah, no better way to do it, especially this morning. It's pretty cold outside when I was hopping in the car. Actually, I had to scrape the windshield for the first time this year.
Wait, okay, what is that?
All right, well, we start with the butter, and you know, we really like to make a spiced compound butter. Real easy to do if you've got a food processor at home, and just a good old smattering of spicy salted butter.
What's in it?
For this one, you know, you can really kind of have fun with it. But for this guy, we did a lot of nutmeg, some ginger, a little bit of clove as well. I'm a big fan of cinnamon. I know that's something that's kind of a no-go territory for you, so we gussied this up. It is.
So you did sans cinnamon.
We did sans cinnamon, just to avoid any and all ugliness that could occur because of it.
So, Beau, for people at home, you just get a bunch of butter and you mush it with different spices and blend it?
Yeah, we just toss it in the food processor and a bunch of fresh spices in there and just let it whirl. Pretty straightforward. So we've got some turbinado sugar syrup that we're going to throw in the mix here, about 3/4 of an ounce.
Where'd you get that?
Well, it's basically, if you've ever been to like a coffee shop and seen sugar in the raw, it's like that much less refined style of sugar. We do about 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, so it's pretty viscous and lovely.
And then?
We've got some Gosling's Black Seal Dark Rum. So the history of the hot buttered rum kind of takes us back to colonial times. And in New England, they used to take a lot of the imported molasses and distill it to make rum. So Gosling's has a very high molasses content, so it seemed like a perfect match for us. And then hot water. So one of these little brew kettle, sort of electric kettle situations is always great. Or if you'd rather, you know, if you got a teapot at home, that works too, or even a small saucepan, something along those lines. And that'll help get that butter in there dissolving for us.
So you have your magic butter potion.
That's right.
Your turbinado sugar, your rum, and then hot water.
That's right. And then we're just going to stir it up real nice.
Do you serve this at Julep's?
We will actually, for the upcoming winter menu, we will be sneaking this on there. It's usually one of our, my wife and I's a personal wintertime favorite.
Do you have it in the morning or do you have it in the nights?
That's
because it's in coffee mugs.
You know, it is, and actually it travels very well in your personal coffee mug if you're going to take it to work. I don't recommend that.
Yes.
Yes, but keep it quiet on that
Uber
end.
Home.
So now that you got that all nice and dissolved, that should be quite delicious.
Well, I'm going to taste this right now.
All right.
Then we still want to make the old-fashioned.
Yeah, of course we do.
Hold on, cheers.
Yeah, let's first things first, right?
I mean, let's get our priorities straight.
Oh man, now I feel inspired to make an old-fashioned.
That's delicious, and you can't taste the rum, which is weird because that's pretty much, it's just rum and butter.
Yes, and a little bit of sugar.
That's good.
But yeah, the body that the butter gives it is really amazing.
How much cinnamon would you add for people who want to do it traditionally?
You know, for like a teaspoon, for like a stick of butter, I'd do about a teaspoon. So nothing over the top, but that's one of those things you can always play with at home. The proportions of these drinks are something that I find that are pretty approachable for a wider audience, but when it comes down to it, when you're making this stuff at home, have fun with it.
So now what are we making? The old-fashioned?
We're making an old-fashioned.
What did you put in there first?
So we got a couple dashes of Angostura bitters. Is an aromatic bitter from Trinidad and Tobago. Kind of a classic behind any bar, really.
You can get that at any liquor store.
Yeah, for sure. It's widely available, and really one of those things that, you know, are a big reason why we don't make aromatic bitters at work is because they do it really well, and it's quite affordable. So, hey, why get in the way of something good?
Right.
So a little bit of that, a little more of that turbinado sugar syrup really plays nicely with those darker liquors, because it has that wonderful sort of nuttiness to it that is just really, really delicious. Plays nice with those brown spirits all together. So we add some ice to our mixing glass here. We're gonna give this a nice long stir.
Old fashions are old fashioned now, but why were they called old fashioned when they were new?
Yeah, so, you know, the old fashioned really kind of, it goes back to the history of, you know, what a cocktail is. And a cocktail was essentially when we look back historically, the first mention of a cocktail is mentioned as a bittered sling. And a sling was essentially just some water, sugar with your spirit. Really, really straightforward, kind of a commonplace tipple, the early 1800s, late 1700s. And somebody had the wise idea of throwing some bitters in there. And as the 19th century kind of stretched on, it was almost like the history of the martini, where it started out as a very specific recipe and then metamorphosized into this wide variety of drinks. So the old codgers would come to the bar and they'd be like, I don't want anything fancy, none of this
you kids get
fruit
off my
juice
lawn.
and everything else, right? So I want a classic old-fashioned cocktail, and the old-fashioned part just kind of stuck. But I know you have some Wisconsin roots, and definitely some muddling cherries and oranges and all that bit are definitely a part of the Prohibition era that kind of was covering up some spirits that were a little questionable at best, may render you blind or kill you.
My dad, having grown up a lot of his life in Wisconsin, I was muddling cherries for his drinks since I was little.
Absolutely.
Like, why am I doing this, Dad?
And you know, to be honest, that's the way I learned how to make an old fashioned, for crying out loud, was the muddled version. But these days we do something more pre-Prohibition style, especially at Julep, where spirit-forward whiskey drinks are kind of a big deal to us.
And so we have to do the orange twist. How important is the orange twist?
Yeah, so the orange twist is pretty darned important because it's going to act, I mean, we're talking about, we have like essentially a 3-ingredient drink here.
Right.
And those little essences matter a lot when we're talking about something like that. So the orange twist, what we do is we cut it with a channel knife, and it really allows a lot of that orange oil, you can kind of see it just spraying over the top of the glass. And that really adds a lovely nose to the cocktail, but also that slight bitterness you're going to get off that orange oil, essentially, is going to help counteract some of the sweetness in the cocktail itself. And then just kind of perfume the glass at the bottom. Just add a little more of that orange oil and aroma to it.
That is beautiful.
Well, I would have
Beau Williams,
to
owner of Julep. Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. I guess I'm drinking alone on this one. Christmas is 24 days